Hi, welcome back to the channel. So as you can see, I'm looking very business-like right now. That's because I just went to a client meeting, just got home from that. So your girl killed it, by the way. Got the job, so that's a win. And I just wanted to quickly record this video to put up for the next episode of my series, my Kissing Frogs Storytime series about all of my really bad dates and funny relationship stories. So the next one, like, I came in hot with the first episode. That's like the best story I have. So unfortunately, I feel like now it's like I've told my like best two, and now this one's still pretty good. Like, don't get me wrong, but like after this one tonight, like I'm gonna have to. I have like lots of good ones, but like none are gonna top like those first two, and then tonight's. They're probably the best three that I have. So whatever, we'll just get into it. So this story takes place when I was in high school. It was near the end of high school. I was 17 at the time, and sorry, ignore my cats running around, as usual. So I was 17, and I just gotten out of this. I'm noticing a pattern here because the same thing with the last two stories starts out the same way. Just got out of a long-term relationship, like of about a year, and was back on the dating scene. But I went to a really small high school, and like I already basically knew all the options in my high school, and not only was like I not really interested in anybody, but nobody was really interested in me. Like at my high school, it was just kind of like a mutual understanding that like we weren't gonna date. So so I didn't have a lot of options as to where to go. Like I didn't do online dating and stuff back then. It was kind of before online dating became mainstream. It was still kind of considered like for weirdos, and it was considered dangerous when you're a 17-year-old girl, and this was like way before Tinder, way before like any of those sites. It was basically like the Craigslist era of online dating, and like so it was just sketchy. So that was not an option for me to like meet people. I already knew everyone in high school. Not really going there. So basically, wow. I am so sorry. They just got into one of my Christmas gifts. Has a lot of tissue on it, and it's very crinkly when they get into it. Kitties, will you please? Sorry. Hopefully that's not going to continue for the rest of the video. So the only other place I had to really meet people was like through work. I had like a part-time job at a Tim Hortons in my town. Super Canadian. And unfortunately, the majority of the people that worked at Tim Hortons were like other girls. Like there weren't a lot of dudes that like worked there, but there was one guy. Well, there was more than one guy that worked there, but like there was one guy that was interested in me, and he actually had given me his number when I was still in a relationship with another guy. And I told the guy, like I told this guy, like, no, I have a boyfriend and stuff. And he was like, well, you know, if that ever like doesn't work out for you, like here's my number. And then the relationship I was in ended, so I was like, hey, I forgot this guy gave me his number, guess I'll like hit him up or whatever. And I was still working with him, like he still worked with me, so even if I didn't still have his number, like I could just get it again. Like next time I worked, I could just see him again. And like at the time I was 17, and I thought it's just like one of those things when you're 17, you think it's so cool to like date an older guy. And this guy was like 20 or so. So he wasn't like way older or anything. It wasn't like inappropriate, but like I just thought like, oh, so cool that I can like date this older guy or whatever. I don't know. And so we went out on a couple dates. They were all like, you know, they were good. I liked the guy. Like there was nothing really important to tell you about those, but as the relationship kind of progressed, like we became like, I guess, officially dating or whatever. Like I don't even remember really having that conversation, but I guess we were. And we well, we wanted to hang out one day, so I had gone over to his house, and he lived like at his parents' house still, but like in the basement, and the basement was kind of like its own. It wasn't its own apartment, but like he had like a very big room, which was like the entire basement of the house. And I guess nobody was home. Like his parents weren't home or anything like that. I don't think I ever even met his parents, to be honest with you. So pretty much every time I was at his house, it was just like the two of us. And so we were downstairs and like we kind of like watched a movie in his room and stuff and like made out a little bit and whatever. And I guess he wanted to take it like further than that. And I didn't want to at the time. So I was like, no, I don't think I'm comfortable with that. And he literally, it was like a switch flipped and he just turned into this completely other person. Like he just raged at me. He was like freaking out, being like, well, what do you mean? Like, why were we making out then and stuff? And I was like, because I wanted to. Like, can we not just make out and not have it lead to like sex, like automatically? And he was like, no, you can't do that to a guy. Like, now I have blue balls and like you don't understand how painful that is. Like, I'm fucking pissed. And he was like screaming at me. I can't even recreate it here without like blowing out the speakers on your computer, you guys. He was full blown screaming in my face about how selfish it was that I would even make out with him if I wasn't gonna like finish the job or whatever. And freaked out, was saying, oh, now I have to go take an Advil for like how much pain I'm in because of this and blah, 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 blah. And I was just sitting there like shell-shocked, basically. I was like, what is happening right now? So I just kind of sat there and he was like just not really getting a response from me because I didn't even know how to react. And he was like, you know what? Like, I need to go outside and like go have a smoke and like be alone for a minute. So he went outside to go have a smoke. And I was just like thinking like, what is happening, right? But nobody else was home. So I was just sitting in his room for like a solid like 15 minutes, just by myself in silence, being like, whoa, like that just went in a weird direction. And then he came back inside and he just says, yeah, I just want you to go home. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and he had picked me, I should have mentioned this before, but he had picked me up, so like I couldn't drive myself home. And I guess we must have planned on like a sleepover, I guess, because he had already, or something like that, because he had already been drinking like a bunch. So he was like, just go home or whatever. No. Okay, sorry, I'm messing up the story. So because I thought that was a little weird, because I wouldn't have been doing sleepovers and stuff in high school. Like I was not allowed to do that. No, so he had picked me up and just had planned to drive me home later. And he had not been drinking. That was a different time. Sorry, I'm getting this all messed up. So he had not been drinking, but he didn't want to have to drive me home because he was so pissed off. That's what it was. He just didn't want to have to drive me home because he didn't want to like see my face. So he was like, you should just go home. And I was like, okay, are you going to take me home? And he's like, I'm not taking you anywhere. Like, fuck that and stuff. And like was swearing at me and screaming at me. And he was like, I'll just call you a taxi. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. And he was like, here, and like threw money at me and was like, just get out. And like made me stand by the road by myself, waiting for the taxi. And then this is where the story gets really weird. So I'm out there waiting for the taxi going, what the fuck kind of a night was this, right? And then he comes out like a few minutes later with like a blanket, because it was winter, so it was cold. So he comes out with a blanket and like wraps it around me and is like, you looked cold and like I wanted to keep you company and like stuff, and like was being all nice again. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, like I'm sorry. And like, and then at one point, literally before the taxi came, he said like, oh, I think I'm like falling for you and stuff. And I was like, is this guy okay mentally? Like, what the hell? Spoiler alert, no, he wasn't. But I didn't know that at the time. But yeah, it was so messed up. It was just such a, I don't even know. So anyway, so after that happened, so that was the first like major red flag where I was like, wow, this guy's crazy. But we didn't break up yet. And I just thought, okay, maybe it was like an off day, or I don't know. I just gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, okay, maybe something else was going on in his life, like, and he had a freak out, and it wasn't really about that, and whatever. So I let it go. And then I like went into work another day, like one morning, and he came in and I was like busy working, and so I didn't really I saw him come in, but I didn't acknowledge, like I didn't say hi or anything, and he was like just all of a sudden being super rude to me, and I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, I come in and you don't even say good morning. And I was like, oh, good morning. And he's like, no, I meant when I got here, like, and like just was all pissy with me at work. And I was like, okay, sorry. And then he legitimately like told my boss he didn't want to work near me and to like keep us separate. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, firstly, that's not appropriate. Like when you're at work, like your personal stuff, like you leave that at the door when you go to work. Like, so just, and the fact that he was dragging me into it, I was like, this is making me look bad now at my work. And like, it was just like annoying. So I was like, ugh, okay, whatever. And then, so all these things sort of happened. And then eventually he was like, I think we should break up. And I was like, oh, well, okay. Yeah, I guess. I mean, bye. You know what I mean? Like, we'd only been dating for a couple of months at this point, and all this stuff had already happened that I just described. So I was just kind of like, all right, see ya. But I didn't say, all right, see ya. You know, I was like compassionate about it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, that sucks, but like I understand and whatever, and let's go our separate ways. And so we broke up, and I put that in air quotes because I guess in his mind we didn't break up, but we broke up. He broke up with me. And then a couple of days later, he like called me and was like, how come you haven't called me? And I was like, because we broke up. And he was like, well, I kind of expected that you were at least going to fight for me. Like, I mean, come on. And I was just like it was just such a weird thing to say. Like, we didn't have any, we dated for like 2 months. Like, why am I going to fight for that? Like, I'm sorry. And you're a crazy psycho. So like, there's not much I really want to fight for here. Like, the way he was saying it was almost like, after all this time and you can just walk away, and that kind of vibe. And I was just kind of like, all this time of 2 months? Like, that's not really a long time, especially since I had just gotten out of like a year-long or longer relationship. So I'm like, that was kind of short-lived for me, to be honest with you. That was kind of like a fling, but okay. And once again, this was not at like normal volume. He was screaming into the phone, being like, you don't effing care, swearing all this stuff, saying, you're not even gonna effing fight for me, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, whoa. So like, he was like, well, are we gonna get back together or what? And I was like, no, I don't think so. So obviously we didn't, and but we still worked together. So that was awkward. And moral of the story, like, don't shit where you eat, which I obviously learned the hard way. I think a lot of people have. So then turns out he comes into work and is like apparently so distraught by this whole thing that like he refuses to even work with me, and ends up quitting that job and says that it's my fault and that he's quitting because of me. And I'm like, you can blame me all you want, but like, I didn't force you to quit your job. I was fine to just go on working like civilly at this job together. Like, we don't have to necessarily be working like side by side for the whole entire day. And I only work here part-time, so it's not like a huge deal. Like, it's fine. It'll be fine. But like, no, it was too much for him to handle. He had to quit. So, so he quit that job, and that's kind of where that story ends. No idea what he's doing these days, because like I said, that was many a year. That was like that's going to be probably one of the oldest stories in this series, because everything else kind of funny and crazy happened like during my college years, but this one was a weird one in high school. So yeah, so that's the end of this video. Hopefully you guys will tune in to the next one. But like I said, like, the stories are getting less and less weird now, like, as I'm going on, because I've told like the best and funniest ones already. But if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, like, go check those out because they're hilarious. And then, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.